you check the children.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime Fuego here.
And we are here to do a review of the brand new entry into the long-running franchise. We are going to be talking about Scream 6. Now, this is going to be a non-spoiler review, just so you know. We are going to record a separate spoiler review that we will put up after this weekend is over. Because for the first time that I can remember, the company that showed the screening actually asked us to hold off on any spoilers of any kind until the Monday following the release of the film. So we can't release a spoiler review on that Friday or Saturday like we have in the past. So we're going to have to wait and release the spoiler review on Monday, but that's okay. It'll give everyone the weekend to actually see the movie and stuff like that. But
there are some juicy bits in this one, I gotta say.
I agree.
And there's some that people know because, you know, with one returning character in particular, but there is a lot to spoil, so that one will be fun as well.
Agreed. But let's talk about this in the non-spoilery way, and we're going to do that in the way we normally do, which is talking about the overall thoughts. Then we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the cinematography, all that good stuff in turn. And I'm going to start off by saying that I'm just going to hit it right at the beginning and say this is my favorite since the second movie. I thought that this film was really well done. I think it's the most tension that I've felt in any of these movies since the second movie. I think that the new setting definitely helped. I think that it wasn't leaned on that much, but I think that it definitely did help, especially with the subway scene. Like, the way that played out, it's actually a lot more tense than the trailer would have you believe. And there was a lot of tension in this film. I think the thing that surprised me the most was the amount of pathos that all of the characters had. Most of the characters, I should say, not all, but most of the characters were really well developed, well drawn, and, you know, those characters were ones that we had carry over from the past film, but I felt way more engaged with the stories of the core four, so to speak. Which was really funny when I heard that.
Yep. Me too. I smiled, man. We missed you, girls. Susan and Marcia.
So yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I had a good time with it. I didn't have a lot of the issues that I've had with some of the recent ones, but yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun experience at the theater.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that notion, man. I'm not gonna go as far as to say that, you know, it was the best since 2, because 2 is my favorite in the series.
Yeah.
You know, I have a soft spot for 4, as you know.
I like 2 and 1 better, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
I like this the best since 2 and 1.
Oh, well, this is a lot better than 3, and a significant improvement from 5, because, you know, and also small little minor detail. Thank goodness they at least numbered this one, because when they did the whole the same title, and yet it's
that was
I
stupid.
Just could not stand the fact that was a recent trend in horror. But yeah, I was so much more impressed with this one. And granted, I went in with, you know, slightly lowered expectations, and perhaps that was to the benefit. But this one improved in just about every capacity for me from the previous installment. There was so much more enrichment and development of these returning characters from the previous one. And also, like, we know Kirby's coming back, so she's a legacy character. But I feel like the fact that we didn't have to divide as much time, the juggling act between Legacy and this new, you know, group of kids, and so, well, now they're like young adult, you know, kind of college students,
college age, yeah,
college age, and so this does mirror in a lot of ways the second
Scream
film,
2, right,
which is my favorite in the franchise, and they wear that on their sleeve, and yet they almost revered the extent of the entire franchise even more so in this one than I think they did in the previous one. And
I agree.
I love the Scream franchise, and so I respected that.
Yep.
And you know, the franchise is a word that's used a lot in this film, and rightfully so. I was trying to figure out what the angle was going to be, because, you know, 2 was sequels, 3 was trilogies, 4 was remakes, 5 was also remakes, and so that's where
5 was requels.
Well, requels, which is a term they bring back here, I guess, you know, because that's been another popular trend. But I was so pleasantly surprised with this movie, and damn, I really dug it, and legit can't wait to go and see it again once it's properly released. So yeah.
Right on. Well, I'm glad we felt the same, because, you know, I wasn't sure. but I just had a really great time. And so the story is Samantha, or wait,
Samantha Carpenter.
right? Yeah, Sam Carpenter and her sister, as well as their two close friends from the previous film, all carry over into this. They're all living in New York now. And all of a sudden, in New York, some killings take place with all the trappings of a Ghostface crime scene, you know? To the point where there's a mask left behind. And again, we're going to not spoil things, but there is something about that becomes sort of a trend in the film. And it's really, really well done. But as soon as this violence happens, the group becomes aware of it pretty quickly, and then they're like, okay, let's get out of the city. And like they're actually starting to make good decisions, but different things prevent what they're trying to do, and they decide to do different things. And again, I'm not spoiling anything, but
Nope.
It's just really interesting. I felt I was really interested in the way this story played out, more so than a lot of the recent entries that were just the typical, you know, I don't really care about these characters or what they're doing because I'm not attached to them the way I was the legacy characters. The fact that there's only one legacy character in this film, I think really helped it. And it gave the main characters like room to have the pathos that I mentioned at the very beginning, where they have the development, and a lot of the development comes from what happened in the previous film. So it's like, while I didn't like the previous film, this film isn't wasting the previous film. It's using the events of the previous film to inform the characters in this film in a very real and very substantial way. And I think it worked very, very well. So they realize that Ghostface is around, and then they all have to survive the new Ghostface. I mean, that's as far as we can go with the story without ruining it. But yeah, I was really impressed with how the story played out, and I was engaged the entire time. I don't even know how long it was because it didn't feel long at all.
It was almost 2 hours.
Was it really? See, it felt like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like it.
No.
It was so well paced in that regard. It was a very tight script despite the runtime.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, Sam Carpenter obviously is positioned as our new Sydney of sorts, who is under a lot of scrutiny. And
Sydney plus though, like there's a shadow
more going on.
There's a shadow over Sam that I really like that was in the last movie that they do carry through to this movie, which I really liked.
Yeah, and I wasn't necessarily sure if they were going to. And even when we were leaving, we briefly discussed that without going into any detail.
Right, exactly.
Obviously, everybody. But they handled it in a different way, I think, than Sydney's trauma was handled, and dare I say, in a more serious way. And I thought that it gave it some differentiation from the way that this was, as billed, a little bit more of a serious Scream film compared to it's not lighthearted subject matter that they tackled in those first four films or anything, but this does continue the trend of things being a little bit more serious, and I wasn't sure if I was going to dig that tone, but it really did work. There was enough lighthearted little interjections here and there, and it's like Jenna Ortega has a lot of little
she's great in this
written in. Yeah, she's fast becoming one hell of a star. Even if I was a little lukewarm on Wednesday, she was still good in that, and she is her star is and stock is rising for a reason. But just the dialogue and the interplay amongst these surviving characters from the last film, I thought Gale was a little undersold, but that's honestly it didn't bother me really.
Yeah, it felt appropriate to me in this one.
Yeah, the bits of her reflection about the fate of Dewey in the previous film were where she was the strongest, and I guess we'll get to that in acting. But I enjoyed the angle of motivation to a point. Okay, I have to really be very careful with my words here because, the perpetration of the crimes, because I don't want to say single or plural because you don't know. We've had both in this franchise. Scream 3 had one killer. Everybody else and all other installments, they had multiple. So we're not going to say one way or the other what's going on. But they do enough differently. Most notably, I have to say the writing in the opening scene here is one of my favorites in the franchise. It was strong. It did some things drastically different, and I was impressed with it, and it legit caught my attention right away. not just with who is in the opening, as far as some familiar faces go, but just the setting of it. It was not another, oh, I'm in a kitchen and I'm getting a phone call,
Right.
which we've seen in like what 3 or 4 of the
This
films.
was a nice evolution, yeah.
Yeah, it was something that it really felt like it was differentiating itself. If I'm gonna,
It
pivot back
set, it
to
set a stage that was really intriguing right from the get-go.
it. Yeah.
There was something that I was kind of hoping might happen going into it, and like I got my wish, and then I didn't get my wish at the same time, but it was a really engaging opening setup, yeah. And the way the rest of it carried through, the whole thing was engaging to me. And I think a lot of that had to do with the acting. The acting was super strong in this, especially with the core 4, which I'm never going to get tired of saying because
Me neither.
we've referred to ourselves as the core 4 for a while. But yeah, those characters are really well done, well drawn, well addressed in this one. It's not like any of them got short shrift. I was actually really engaged with all of their stories. And then the new friends that are brought in, of course, all have aspects to them that are engaging for various reasons.
So the new characters, like Quinn, the roommate, that sexually free girl, as she is referred to at one particular point by one
Karen
of the twins.
Gillan, mini Karen Gillan, in my
Kind of.
opinion.
Yeah. I was less impressed though with poor man's Evan Peters, as I referred to him to you, Jack Champion, I think his name is. Not much interesting going on. The roommate of the other twin, the surviving brother from that. And so, but really for me, man, for my money, as great as Jenna Ortega is and how her star is rising and everything, it's Sam's film in so many ways, man. And Melissa Barrera, she's great in this, man. Like just all of the angst and the way that she's dealing with all of the trauma, and the subplot that you mentioned about who her father is and everything that we found out in the previous film, and just the teetering on the edge sort of bit that we really get to at a few points in this film. She sells it, where like the gears turning in her head about, okay, there is an inherent hereditary nature that I have within me, which I thought was great. And and the return of Hayden, what the hell was her name? I always think
Hayden
it was
Panettiere.
the cheerleader from Heroes, man.
Save Hayden, save the world.
Yeah, I was so stoked to have her back, and
she was really enjoyable.
Yeah,
honestly, it was really cool to see her again. I don't remember what else she's done since then. I'm not saying
not much.
It hasn't
she
been.
Did the country show for a while, but then she stepped away from acting. And I know recently there was that horrible tragedy with her brother passing, which is really crappy. So condolences there.
But she was. It was great to see her again. It really was.
Yeah, and she's the cool thing is that she's not quite a legacy character, because unlike Dewey,
she's like, she's like halfway there. She was from 4. But
in between her,
But honestly, it didn't feel bad. Like, it's funny. Like, she felt like a legacy character, but she was really young, and they kind of addressed that in the script.
At one
It's
point,
like, it's funny. All the things that you think at any point in the movie, they will address at some point with the script. Because, like, you might be like, what about this? And then at some point they'll be like, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, shit, okay. All right, well, there's the answer to that.
Thank you for tying up the loose ends. Yeah.
But, yeah, she was great. She was really, really enjoyable. Everyone really was. It felt to me like Jenna Ortega raised Sam's performance level just a bit in this one. Because Jenna Ortega was pretty much limited to being a victim in the last one. She was attacked at the very beginning and then in the hospital and fleeing for her life the rest of the time. In this one, she actually, again, she gets a little pathos. She gets a little bit of reasons for everything, and there's some dramatic moments between her and her sister, her and a potential love interest, and like there's a lot of really interesting things going on, and
handling the PTSD differently is
yeah. I adored the relationship that they had. I really thought that the acting was just really well done in this. Again, some of the smaller characters might not have had as much script to shine with, so they might not have been as standout, but I think everyone did a really great job in this film.
Agreed. Yeah. Solid performances across the board, aside from those who were just kind of relegated to minor characters, like Mindy's girlfriend, for instance, from the previous film, and so. But yeah, I mean, even the cop, No, he was good though, man. Yeah, yeah, he was solidly utilized as the police force presence of
Hmm.
sorts, and yeah, yeah. I mean, solid across the board. There wasn't really anybody who was dragging things down with a
No.
poor performance. So
So I would say cinematographically, cinematography wise, I really enjoyed the presentation of this film. I thought everything made sense. The action didn't feel like choppy or anything like that. Everything was very easy to track, very easy to follow, and very tense the whole way
yes,
through. I mean, it's the filmmakers behind the Ready or Not
yep,
movie, right? So it
exactly.
makes sense
Radio
that
silence. Yeah.
yeah, the radio silence guys, so they know what they're doing, and it shows in all kinds of ways in this one. I think even more so than in the last one, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the subway scene, which you mentioned, most definitely.
So good.
The claustrophobia that
The
I felt in
claustrophobia,
the theater
the
looking
lights
at it.
issue, right? The
Mhm.
fact that the lights are going out and stuff because the power's being taxed, and the way
Yeah.
they use that to present the scene is really well done.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's another scene with a ladder going across
Yes.
two windows that was really tense and really good. And that's where I have to echo, man. Like it wasn't just the scenarios that made everything feel like high stakes in this, but it was the way that they presented it that really just added that additional like edge of your seat. And I mean,
The set
just
pieces were great.
they really, really were, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
most def.
I would say the ladder is a set piece. The theater that we
Oh, the
see,
theater was
the
great.
theater
How
that
how
we see
meta
in the
was that?
trailer,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
it was.
Honestly, that whole scene was just eye candy for me because
Hmm.
I'm a lover of the Scream franchise. The first movie came out when I'm 16 years old. It's Wes Craven. It's right after Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So like I have a very particular affinity for the franchise. I just stopped caring after a certain point because 4 didn't impress me and 5 didn't really impress me, but this one did. And the filmmaking was really impressive to me with this one. I thought everything was presented in such a really, again, tension building and entertaining yet nostalgic, right, for the party scenes and stuff like that. Like it just
Now the
had a
party
little bit of
scene cracked me
everything.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, I just really dug how the film was presented.
Yeah, I will also echo something you said earlier, though, where I thought they were going to lean on the New Yorkness of it a little bit more
Right.
than they actually did. But I mean, the same happened with Jason Takes Manhattan. So
Yeah, that was
but
relegated to the
but
last
yeah,
third.
the last third of that movie. So yeah, but I mean, these guys know what they're doing from a visual standpoint, and it just elevates everything in the film. Really
And
impressive
there's
stuff.
tons of fun cameos with the costumed people and stuff like that.
Oh
So,
yeah, you see it in the trailer. I mean, lots of big time franchises because the whole discussion is franchises, right? So you're gonna see Michael Myers and Cenobites and things of that nature.
yep.
So yeah.
And I liked the discussion, the franchise discussion in
Hmm.
this one, as opposed to sequels or trilogies or remakes or requels specifically. It was
Yeah,
just it was really entertainingly written. Like I
and
just liked how it was written.
and a little story blib that I didn't get to say, if I could just pivot back
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
quickly, is that I dug how they handled the aftermath for Sam, specifically tying in with social media, and it's something that they go into in the third act specifically
How
about
easy it is to
what
to
is worse
shape
than
the narrative.
and what is worse than death, like having your reputation destroyed and
Hmm.
having to continue living. I thought that was a really cool wrinkle.
No,
Uh,
I liked, yeah, that they were like, look, in today's day and age, reality doesn't matter when
mhm.
people can shape the reality to whatever they want via social media. And it's
And
like,
so
fuck, that's
easily
really
change
fucked up.
and so easily change the narrative too.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
just get enough momentum. And I mean, look at what happened. Well, I'm
It's
not
all it
going to
takes.
go into
Oh, yeah, no,
examples.
I mean, yeah, dude, but it's like so apropos. It's a really smartly written movie. Like, I was curious. I was like, geez, where do they go from here to have
I was thinking the same
commentary?
thing.
I mean, the commentary is large and in charge, and not in a bad way. Like the commentary for this film carries a lot of this film, and it was really impressive to me. The
And it
whole
has a
thing was
poignancy
really
to it.
impressive.
Yeah, yeah, it has a poignancy and a timeliness to it as well.
Yeah, and I care about these characters now. Like I care about, again, without saying what happens, I'm just gonna say I care about the core four, and whether or not it's still the core four at the end of this or not, I'm not saying, but I really appreciated the characters, and if there's more, I'm happy about it at this point. Like, I didn't care that we were going to get a sequel so quickly after the 5th. I was like, really? That one is why everyone wants to come back? But now I'm glad that they did it. I'm glad that everyone is coming back, because I think this one elevated 5 to me.
Well, just like 1 and 2, man. I mean, they fast-tracked 2 after the first one was such a big success. They did the same thing with this one. 5 was a surprise success. It did better than they expected.
I think before
and they're like,
this,
we got to get another one a year later.
Before
Boom,
this,
do it.
I would have said my order would have been Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 4, Scream 5, Scream 3. Now I will say it would be Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 6, Scream 5, Scream 4, Scream 3. Like, this one put 5 above 4. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did to me. This one made me care about 5 so much more than I cared about 5.
I was wanting to rewatch it before we.
I'm so glad, and that's a good point.
I didn't get
you
the chance
didn't.
to.
I did.
Yeah.
I did rewatch it 2 days before I saw this, and I'm really glad that I did. Really glad that I did, because everything was fresh. Because a lot comes from the 5th movie in this one.
Thankfully, there was a lot that I remembered, so it's not like subplots from that lost on me or anything.
No, but I mean, I think you'd be very much benefited to watching 5 before you go back to see this if you haven't, because I hadn't seen it since the premiere. Since we reviewed it.
It streams on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen it in a full year since it came out, so I'm glad I rewatched it. I still was like, kind of like, it's okay. I still think this one's much better, but I think that 5 was made better by 6.
Well, and just to generalize it, though, this actually references in some small or a little bit larger way every previous film in the franchise.
And I loved that. Again,
killer.
this is, I said in my tweet, this is a Scream fan Scream.
100%, man.
100%. It's like, if you are a fan of the Scream franchise, you are going to enjoy this movie for a variety of reasons. In my opinion. I could see this being the highest rated Scream movie in a long time. Even above 5 and 4, honestly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are expecting it to be the highest grossing of any film in the franchise when it debuts this upcoming weekend. So.
And I'm actually cool with that. I'm excited. Like, there's still places we can go, you know, like, there's still stuff we can do. They started down a path at the beginning of the movie, and then, like, that's the thing. One of the things that, again, I said, I did one tweet. We're allowed to do one tweet reactions out of the theater, and I did. And one of the things is subverted expectations. Mm-hmm. The movie subverts expectations, which you need to do in a Scream movie at this point. Yeah, and I really loved it.
So yeah, one of the only gripes that I have is that there wasn't really a lot of new stuff music-wise. Now there are callbacks to a lost character from the previous film, a legacy character, which I thought were tastefully done. But as far as like a new score or anything of that nature, or like song usage, like in the second one where Jerry O'Connell's jumping around singing and whatnot, you don't really have moments like that. But I did like the what is it, cold dark hand or whatever,
red right hand.
Right hand, yeah, because it's in I was just watching Dumb and Dumber the other day, and I'm like, I liked
the usage of that, and like you said, there's a particular musical sting that when someone's talking about someone else and they played it, I was like, I was like, yeah. I was like, that's the theme. Like, and it was just really great. It was such a wonderful little nod in score form, you know? Like, it's just a really smartly put together film. I thought the score was entertaining. Like, again, Red Right Hand stood out. That moment stood out. But I would definitely be willing to put this score on while I was, like, reading comics or something like that. It was an engaging score, although I can't really... pinpoint a particular. It was tension building when it needed to. It was,
well, that for sure.
You know,
yeah. It just didn't have. It was more so callbacks than anything new signature moment wise.
Well,
at least for me. I mean, I'm grasping.
I mean, sure. No, I get you.
Sound design was solid though, man.
Sound design was sweet.
Yeah. But
there was a lot of stuff going on in the next room that they played with in this one, which I really liked.
Yeah.
down to starting with, oh, what's my roommate doing,
Yeah.
all the way down to, oh, what's my roommate doing,
Are
like
they beaten down or are they being taken down?
yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. I mean, it was just really entertaining. So we covered music, we covered score, we covered
Now
sound.
it's time for effects. And the
Effects.
practical and the blood and the fact that this has been touted in, all the promotional materials as being the most brutal ghost face yet. Do you think it lived up to that? I don't know.
I don't know either. There's one kill in the fifth one that was so aggressive that I don't think any of the kills in this one topped. Through the neck. Oh.
Yeah.
Was that in the last one too?
That was in the last one too.
So yeah, both of those, but the one where he slowly pushes it through the neck of the frosted tips dude, and it goes in the front and out the back of the neck. And I was like, that's a really cool kill. Like, there wasn't anything on that level in this. There was a couple of moments where I was like, ooh, like where the gore is quick and shocking, but nothing as cool as that, I would say. But the gore was great, and there was a lot of it, a substantial amount.
Yeah, there's still a lot of characters that can get stabbed a whole hell of a lot.
Jesus, apparently we're pincushions and we can survive anything at this point.
Yeah, although there's one character in particular where I felt like they did the bit properly, where she is bleeding out and like you can see just the agony in the midst of what's going down. Whereas in so many other scenes, it's like there's hyper stabbing in this, which was kind of brought to play in the previous.
Yeah, they started doing that a lot. I was like having fun, kind of like trying to count, and I was like, nope, I lost count. That's too many of these.
Which Sam even says at one point in the movie, she's like, I stabbed him 22 times. Shot him in the head. And I'm like, all right.
Yep.
Keep him count.
There was a lot of really cool gore moments, but I don't think anything reached the level of like the two most aggressive kills in the last one. So, I mean, it's good, and there's a good amount of it, but I just don't think it reached the level of the last one in the gore department. But that's okay. Like, everything else was so much better in a lot of ways.
Well, I like the refrigerator bit. I thought that was
the refrigerator bit was good. And like, they tried, again, they limit Ghostface, right? This is the first time they actually let him get away from the knife for something else for a brief moment. But even with the knife, like, they had a little bit more fun with the knife, I felt like, in this one than they had in the past. Like, there's one moment where, like, someone sees how someone gets killed in, like, security footage, and they're like, ooh! And it's like, yeah, that's a pretty aggressive way to... Yeah, that's an appropriate scratch. So, yeah, no, I mean, all the gore was effective. I don't think there was as much aggressive gore as there was in the last one, but there was enough of it to keep me satiated.
Yes, and I love the set design of what is seen in the trailer of this warehouse that is an homage to all of the previous killers, and just the set design of
the theater. Yeah, it's a whole
theater. It was really cool, man. Yeah.
Because all the old stab posters on the wall and
all the memorabilia, and you see this in the trailer, guys. So we're not going intense, but I mean,
obviously, what I will say about that though is in the trailer, I was worried it was going to be something that we blew through, but no, they give you a moment to really kind of look around the room. As the characters look around the room, and there's a really great moment when they go in there. There's a really great moment with Kirby that I was like, that's fucking cool. And like, so, they did a lot of really cool stuff. Again, this is a Scream fans Scream movie, and I think it's a lot of fun because of it.
Yeah, because Kirby even mentions at one point the extent of the Easter eggs, and just like there's so many referencing the previous films in this. So yeah, if you're down with this franchise, you will. I trust. I legitimately feel very confident that Scream fans are gonna really dig this one.
I agree. So yeah, guys, I think that's about as much as we can say non-spoilery that we want to anyway, without getting close to ruining things for you guys. But
yeah,
I hope
there's a lot to say.
Yeah, I hope you take the time to go and watch this. I think it's worth a theatrical visit. This is the kind that the crowd gets into, but they're not annoying about. And like, if you get the talkative crowd, it's the good kind of talkative crowd. Like, don't go in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like at the beginning of 2 with Jada Pinkett, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a really fun movie. So definitely enjoy yourselves and go and check it out. And thank you guys if you've watched this far into the review. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much to all of our patrons. You guys are amazing. You have supported us for a very long time, and you help make the channel happen. So thank you very much to each and every one of you guys.
Damn
Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias. Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.